Martin Luther said, "I hope the day is near at hand when the advent of our great God will appear. For all things everywhere are boiling, burning, moving, falling, sinking, and groaning." He's talking about the apocalypse. The end of the world as we know it. In faith terms, the second coming of Jesus Christ. The transfiguration and the inauguration of God's kingdom in all of its fullness here on earth. And it's appropriate that our lectionary readings turn us more and more to apocalyptic writing as we approach next Sunday and the Feast of the Reign of Christ, the end of our church year, and as we move then into the liturgical season of Advent, the beginning of the church year, preparing us to celebrate the incarnation, the birth of Jesus, Emmanuel, God here with us. So when you hear that word, apocalypse, how does it make you feel? Helpless? Did someone say that? How does it make you feel? Worried. I should turn around and look back here to see if anybody's got anything back there, right? Anything else about how it makes you feel when you hear that word apocalypse? Extreme. Lots of emotions can be conjured up in a word, and especially a word like apocalypse. Here are some of the things that it could mean. For some, it inspires suspicion. Oh, there have been so many predictions over the years, all of them misleading, and it's never happened, so I'm going to be skeptical. For others, it inspires fear, anxiety. How is this going to happen? What's the world going to go through? What are we going to go through as human beings? For others, it inspires regret. What could I have done that I didn't do? What opportunities have I missed? What things did I want to accomplish? What adventures did I want to take? For others, it inspires motivation. If there's not much time left, then how am I going to use that time? What good can I do? What's out there that I still want to discover? And for others, it inspires hope. Hope because it means recreating the world as God desires it. The end of all that is toxic, everything that destroys life, all that creates chaos, the things that lead to stress and distress. Our gospel reading for this morning is apocalyptic, or using a churchy word, eschatological. Eschatological, one of the doctrines of the church. It's Jesus teaching about the final events of history and the ultimate destiny of humanity. Jesus said these words, hear them again from Eugene Peterson's The Message. When you hear of wars and uprisings, keep your head and don't panic. This is routine history and no sign of the end. Nation will fight nation and ruler fight ruler over and over again. Huge earthquakes will occur in various places. There will be famines. You'll think at times that the very sky is falling. That could very easily be the headline in the Toronto Star or the Globe and Mail, or the lead story of Global News or the National, couldn't it? Sadly, it's all too familiar to us living right in this moment in time. When we hear and reflect on apocalyptic passages like our gospel reading for this morning, it's important to use three lenses. First, the time when Jesus spoke these words. Second, the time when Luke wrote these words. And third, our present time as we hear those words this morning in 2019. First, the people of Jesus' day. Well, there's no doubt they knew the story of the destruction of the temple. It was their history. It was a significant part of their faith and spiritual journey that was told from generation to generation to generation. And so when Jesus talked about the stones being turned to rubble in their temple, that was something that wasn't foreign to them. They knew what that meant. Jesus based his apocalyptic teaching on the conquest of Jerusalem by the Romans. And here's a commentary that I read this past week that I think shows us something of what that was like. Roars of flame streaming far and wide, mingled with groans of the falling victims. Owing to the height of the hill and the mass of the burning pile, one would have thought the whole city was ablaze. Cries on the hill blended with those of the multitude in the city below. Many, emaciated and tongue-tied from starvation, beheld the sanctuary on fire. They gathered strength for lamentations and wailing. Yet more awful than the uproar were the sufferings. Sounds pretty desolate, doesn't it? So how could they believe in God, and how could they believe in all that God promised them as His children, when the beauty of God's own house was and was going to be destroyed? The truth was, their ancestors lived through the destruction of the temple, the Holy of Holies. They were persistent in their faith. They didn't give up. They kept going, and they kept believing. And so even though Jesus announced catastrophes of wars and famines and earthquakes, and their temple being destroyed, they too could have a faithful resolve. They too could continue to hope and to trust. They could hold on to the words of Isaiah from their Hebrew scriptures, their Bible, words that they knew. God, through Isaiah, said, I'm creating new heavens and a new earth. Earlier troubles, chaos, and pain, things of the past to be forgotten. Look ahead with joy. Anticipate what God is creating. No more sounds of weeping in the city, cries of anguish, babies dying in the cradle, old people who don't enjoy a full life. Words of hope, words of promise that they were being called to hold on to. Jesus was inspiring hope, no matter what would happen in the world, no matter what would happen in their very lives. So what about Luke? What was Luke saying to those that he was writing to as he wrote his gospel? Now we need to remember that Luke wrote his gospel late in the 1st century after Jesus' death and resurrection. Luke was part of that generation after the ministry and the teaching of Jesus. And so he wrote often about what he heard other people say about Jesus, or what he knew about Jesus from the teaching as part of the early Christian church. And what he was reiterating in this passage as he wrote these words was exactly what Jesus said to the people of his own time, his own day. Yes, there's going to be struggles, and it will be a struggle to remain faithful. There will be challenges to be remaining hopeful. There will be anxious moments of doubt about what lay before you. That it would look to them like the world as they knew it and experienced it was coming to an end. That's in the 1st century after Jesus. And remember, this was the early church. This was the first Christian communities. And they faced persecution. Persecution that was a real threat. Many would ultimately die for proclaiming their faith in Jesus. And not only that, but for bringing others to believe in what Jesus promised too. So with all that had gone on and with all that was going on at that very moment, what were they to do? What did it mean for them to witness to the good news of Jesus Christ? Well, the bottom line of Luke's message to his people was the same as what Jesus said to those of his own day. Keep the faith. Remain trusting. Don't panic. Don't lose hope. Stay with it to the end, because you won't be sorry. You will be saved. You will be saved. And finally, what about us today? What's the message for us reading Luke this morning 2,000 years after it was written? Not much has changed, has it? We witness atrocities and tragedies all around the world we live in. Forest fires out of control in Australia. 2 students shot and killed on Wednesday at a school in Los Angeles. Civil unrest in China, fighting in Bolivia, flooding in Venice, natural disasters. often due to climate change and what's happening in our environment. I wonder, does all that indicate the apocalypse is just around the corner? Some might say that's what it means. I'm not so sure. No more so than it was in Jesus' own day, or in Luke's own day 2,000 years ago. Jesus himself said, "This is routine history, and no sign of the end." What I hear is Jesus calling us to take every opportunity available to us to witness to the power and the truth of the gospel in our ministries, in the living out of our discipleship. That's why, despite so much war and hatred and violence in the world, we here at St. Paul's have the audacity to plant a peace pole in front of our church. It's not there right now because it's getting its final coats of lacquer, I think. It will be there hopefully this week and planted there, and it will stay there. And it is an audacious, faithful act for us to plant it there in the world we live in today with the news that is on our news report. We join with others around the world who hold out that hope for peace, despite the realities that speak a different message that we read about in the newspaper and hear about on the internet. Here's a reflection of what our discipleship, I think, needs to be about, that I share with you. Amidst the chaos and evil of the world, bring something different, not tainted by the world's fear and hatred, but bear love to the world, to nations in warlike frenzy, or neighbors who are afraid, or families upset and struggling. Bring peace. Bring trust in God. Their resentment and resistance is an opportunity to love. Their craziness is deadly. Hold steadfast to love, because that's how we stay alive. There's a saying that even if I knew the world would go to pieces tomorrow, I would plant an apple tree today. And that statement affirms the idea that even in the face of annihilation, we can still find meaning in our faithfulness and in our actions, especially as the body of Christ, as ones who proclaim the kingdom of God. So friends, as a gospel people with gospel hope, let's hear Jesus speaking to us this morning. And let's not be afraid. Let's not be anxious. Even though the sky seems to be falling in and the earth seems to be crumbling under our feet, let's plant our apple tree. Let's watch it grow. And let's see the fruit it bears.